Hello and welcome to today's episode where I will be taking a little bit more of a light-hearted approach to today as I unpack 10 of the most ridiculous things Donald Trump has ever said or done. So I want to thank those of you who have been active on the TJacks Unpacks Instagram page. I put a poll up in regards to this episode and you guys overwhelmingly said you wanted this, so you vote. And unlike our elective representatives, I try my best to actually deliver. So, this video is going to be different than the most hateful or impactful things that Donald Trump has done. Remember, we're trying to keep it lighthearted, generally speaking. So I am looking more so at reports or things I've seen that made me go like, what? Or, huh? Or, insert explicative, whatever curse word you want to put, or made me legitimately laugh out loud when I read the story. So some of the stories I will not be focusing on, for instance, are the border policies that rip kids away from their families, a mocking reporter with a disability, taking classified documents and storing them in his bathroom at Mar-a-Lago and all over the place, and then refusing to return our national security secrets when asked, not going on TV after 9/11 and bragging about now having the tallest building in Lower Manhattan, and not even being found liable for sexual abuse. So none of those made the cut. And even though I am focusing more on like the /laugh out loud or WTF criteria, I understand he is still president and one of the most influential people, if not the most influential person in the entire world. So I ask, along with me, we have time to talk about the serious stuff. You guys can go look at a bunch of other episodes where I'm a little bit more serious, but I think a nice balance of being able to laugh is good, because if we did not laugh about some of this, I think we would be crying pretty much nonstop. But before we jump into that, guys, we're going to do our quick hits of the week, starting with a RFK Jr. disaster with false health reports, and I wish I were surprised. So RFK Jr. releases report with fake citations and broken links. So only the most qualified for this administration, right? Remember, guys, they hit the ground running. The strongest cabinet, right? The most qualified people. That's really what they were going for, right? So the leader for health in this country, by the way, who said a few weeks ago that people should not take health advice from him. So yes, the leader for health in the country who we should be looking for guidance is like, nah, don't check in with me. I don't really know what's going on. But he cannot manage to put out a press release with appropriate evidence. So he couldn't cite like a college level student, a late teenager, early 20-year-old would be able to do. But honestly seems like a perfect fit within this administration. Guys, one of the reasons RFK Jr. was handed this cabinet position is he first went to Kamala Harris on the campaign trail, and Harris declined his request to be part of her cabinet. Now, Trump, on the other hand, will take any kind of offer or bribe or anything if it puts him in a better light. So it was strategically probably advantageous for the election, but to give someone this role as a pro quo when he is clearly unqualified is the exact reason why Kamala Harris, or one of the reasons why she actually declined his request to be in her cabinet. Now, he then went out recently, guys, after saying don't take my medical advice, and then came out and said that COVID shots were no longer recommended for kids and pregnant women. Now, that is devastating because our broken healthcare system and our insurance corruption. So now what's likely to happen with that report is now many insurance companies will likely not cover the COVID shot for pregnant women and or children, despite what the science says. Remember, guys, our healthcare system isn't about treating people. It's about making a profit. We are unique in the United States where that is the goal. It is a profit motive, not health motive goal. My big advice with the current state of like science, health, and medicine in this country is I hope, and I know many of you may not have good coverage because you live in the United States, but really lean into your primary care provider. I'll just get one example that we did with our young one with our pediatrician. During, when the measles outbreak was setting in, we asked our pediatrician about vaccinations, and many pediatrician's office or pediatrics will not accept, or they'll say it's not a good fit if your child does, or you choose not to get your child vaccinated. So for us, we felt very safe with our pediatrician because she was pretty staunch with like, if parents come in and they don't want the vaccines, that's okay, but we try to transition them to another provider. So that makes me feel safe. So little things like that, really lean in to, the health professionals, and I would stay away from really what's being reported out of the White House. All right, story number 2. Elon Musk is finally, shouldn't have ever been there, but he is leaving the federal government. Like I said, it's about time that this unelected bureaucrat who got his power from, shocker, a bribe and a gift to Donald Trump, right? Guys, that's how everyone gets things from Trump. It's bribes, it's loyalty, right? It's things like that. It's not ability or like anything that most people judge qualifications for. He never does that. Remember, for RFK Jr., it was his spot in the cabinet, regardless of actual qualifications. For Musk, he gave a over $200 million, what they call campaign contribution, which is a bribe to everyday people like me and you, which was just a bribe to get access to the federal government, right? Through a failure of a department called DOGE. Now, that was his qualification. He was rich and he gave a lot of money. So I guess that is what allows you to get access to basically all of our social security numbers, all of our information in the treasury of the United States. And by the way, guys, the numbers are in, and thus far, Doge has actually cost the American taxpayers more money than it has saved thus far, because there's not this rampant fraud that they're lying to the American public about. Now, is there a degree of fraud? Obviously, guys, the bigger a company or industry or government is, right, the more people you have involved in it, the more money, there is going to be levels of fraud. But what they have discussed and pointed to as fraud, it's not fraud if you just disagree with how the money's spent. That's not fraud. That's called just a disagreement. And you go to Congress, you then argue, debate. Congress has the power of the purse. Then legally that money is assigned. So that's not fraud if you don't like it, okay? So that's a big thing they're doing. And second of all, guys, they're just lying about the numbers. It's not that much. And this administration is also spending more than at the same point last year. So they're saying one thing about cutting government and they're exploding their spending out of the other side of their mouth. Now, Musk said that this was the end of what is called his scheduled time, when in reality, there had been a lot of tension behind the scenes. Musk is attached to Trump, so there's some discussion that Trump's low approval rating could be partially due to Musk. My argument would be Trump made that decision, so he is at the head of the snake. Is he the most powerful person in the United States or not? Right? Like, is he the president or not? So does he make those decisions or not? Right? So he is the number one perpetrator. But in my personal opinion, Musk still got access to information. He still gutted certain programs, specifically, or funds, specifically ones that targeted his companies. He wants ultimately, guys, unfettered control, basically, to do whatever he wants. Right? Not only that, he wants the federal government to help him do that through giving him government handouts to his businesses like SpaceX, right? Or Tesla. That's what he's trying to do. He really wants to colonize Mars and like put an Elon flag on that, right? Now, with Elon Musk leading the government, this does not mean that the cuts are going to stop by any means. If you disagree with Trump and his vision, he's going to work to eliminate you from the federal government. So I expect more positions, more jobs to be cut because they are not interested in a system of checks and balances. They're interested in a system of authoritarian rule and centralized power, right? They have said, you've seen the press secretary not understand the whole point of the Constitution. No, the president is not a king. They can't just say, I want this done, and then the other branches are just supposed to follow it, guys. No. That's the whole purpose of checks and balances. Now, recently, Musk actually turned around and criticized Trump's bill. Now, not for the reason that like a progressive like myself would criticize it, which is cuts for the most vulnerable populations. I do not want that. I think funding should go to vulnerable populations and less funding should go to, corporations. And if we just raise taxes and tax wealth so that the rich are paying their fair share, that is my approach. But Musk is saying that the cuts don't go far enough, that it's a disgusting abomination and pork-filled. So we will see how that plays out in the war between Trump and Musk. Now, moving on to story number 3, an update of what is happening in Gaza. Almost 180,000 Palestinians are displaced by Israeli military offensive. So that number of Palestinians, approximately, so just under 200,000, have been on the move and seeking shelter since Israel launched, an intensified military offensive 2 weeks ago. Now, what I'm going to show you guys here, and I want to give a viewer discretion warning, but this is a viral video that has been making its way around social media. I think it may have even made its way to mainstream media regarding airstrikes that are happening in Gaza. I do want to warn you even more specifically, it does involve a child, so viewer discretion is advised. We guys are witnessing a modern day genocide in Gaza, right? We act like things like this cannot happen in 2025, right? We read about things in the history books and we act like we cannot repeat them. But Israel is trying to wipe out basically every Palestinian and completely take over the Gaza Strip. What I want to shout out before we move on to the next story, and that clip is just really sticking with me. I want to shout out a lot of the young people across this country, particularly on college campuses or in high schools, who are sticking up and saying what's right. It is never on the right side of history to be okay with the murdering and bombing of innocent people. I don't know any time in history, if you think of that from an ethical, moral, humanitarian, whatever perspective you want to look at it as, you don't target and kill civilians. That should not be your goal when a specific small subsection is committing an atrocity towards your country. You don't then go murder a bunch of innocent people. So just really shout out to the young people across the country sticking up. Even though what the Trump administration is doing is they're often silencing, sometimes detaining young people on college campuses who are speaking out about this. So thank you for your strength and leadership at this time where older adults are failing young adults in this country. All right, story number 4, gathering myself together after that video. Trump administration plans to create a database on all of us. Yes, so straight out of the Project 2025 playbook, guys. This is part of what should have been expected. This should not have been a shock if we are well informed about what we are voting for. But the administration is collaborating with Palantir, I think that's how that's pronounced, Technologies, which is an analytics firm, to create a national citizens database. And this is co-founded by mega donor and Trump loyalist Peter Thiel, who I have no positive words basically about. So guys, this is a dystopian nightmare right out of 1984, and it's just more fascism taking place in this country. It seems like every time I do another episode, I just have another piece of evidence to show you, like, yes, we should be incredibly concerned about what we are seeing. Now, kind of twist to this is MAGA, actually, a lot of some of his most staunch supporters are angry about this, which leads me to one of the main things I'm trying to accomplish with this podcast, which is to educate people about what they are voting for and why the systems are set up the way they are. In this case, guys, many people were unaware or didn't believe that Trump would implement some things in Project 2025, but he's really just following it like a playbook. And I would argue part of why I can substantiate that is almost immediately his approval rating was in the dumpster, right? It's sitting at around 40%. And he's really just doing the things that he said he would do. So if you weren't, though, listening to the correct media, because, guys, we're all fed a certain algorithm. If someone's just watching Fox News nonstop and Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire, things like that, they're not getting the accurate information, okay? The media does not do a good job educating people, okay? So people at large, I think, did not understand the gravity of this vote. Now, I'm not completely detached. I'm not detached to understanding there is a segment of the population who voted with hate in their heart. Unfortunately, that's true. We live in the United States. There is a lot of hatred in our borders, unfortunately. But I do not believe a large percentage of people voted purely on the hateful part that this administration is trying to do. I think people just, the media algorithm failed people, I think largely was what happened. And the Democratic Party. I did a whole, many episodes, guys, lambasting the Democratic Party for not being able to communicate and connect with voters as well. Another piece of evidence, guys, if you did not know this, Google searches around things like changing votes. Can I change my vote, for instance? Spiked after people found out Trump actually won. So I'm going to stand. I think it's a more positive way to think of things, to think of like, we need to work on educating people, getting people the information, making sure people are making informed decisions, and that propaganda networks like Fox News aren't ruining people's perspective on what's actually happening in reality, rather than just assuming everybody who voted for Trump is hateful. I don't think that's true. I think it's an education or ignorance problem largely, or as opposed to just like a hate problem. Okay. All right. Now, last story here. Republican senator states we all die in response to Medicaid cuts. So the Republican plan for healthcare in this country is tough break. We all die. So if you have not seen this story or this clip, I am not lying. This story is not from The Onion. It happened. She said it on stage. This is Senator Joni Ernst saying we all die.
They are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die. So for heaven's sakes.
This administration really has those let them eat cake vibes, right? Like just the contempt for voters, like the lack of care whatsoever, the dismissiveness of like, yeah, maybe you won't be able to get your insulin, so you'll die, but we all die. Obviously, we all die. The goal is not to die at 40. The goal is not to die in excruciating pain. The goal is to live as long as possible healthy, obviously, Senator Ernst. Like, she tried, by the way, a few days later, to record an apology video, but it did not land at all. You guys can Google it for yourself. And in fact, it came out dismissive and sarcastic. So she just keeps digging that hole. Now, Iowa Democrat J.D. Scholten. I don't know much about him, but he has emerged now as a challenger in response to this viral clip. Because, guys, this went nationwide. And Ernst's seat is up for the 2026 Senate race. So if I am him, if I'm Scholten, I am running this campaign non-stop on a loop all throughout Iowa. Now, I do not know much about this guy's policies, but it's hard for me to think he's much worse than a senator who thinks constituents should just die if they don't get health care. Okay. So I know some of those stories were heavy, guys, but now we get to move into a little bit of a more fun part of this episode. Take a deep breath, get a little bit more lighthearted, where we are going to discuss some of Trump's most ridiculous things he has ever done. Now, guys, going through this process, what I did first is I just sat down at my computer and I typed a list of things I remembered off the top of my head. I got to 21 different things, excluding those hateful things that I mentioned earlier. But I got to 21 things that I thought could qualify. Then I did some research of things, just making sure I didn't forget anything. And I ended up with 24. So I had to go through the process of cutting down the 24 to a top 10, but I did do that for you guys. If you want my total list of 24, let me know. I can maybe send that or put that in the descriptions or something. But I do want to give a few honorable mentions out of that 24. So the 14, some of the 14 that did not make the cut. So the first one is just Trump's social media activity at large. I don't know if you guys have ever opened up True Social and just gone to Trump's page and just scrolled for a little bit. But it is absolutely unhinged behavior. If this was a family member that I cared about, I would pull them aside and tell them that maybe it's time to go to bed and that technology and the internet maybe isn't the best thing for you, right? That's how I would treat a loved one if I opened their social media page and I saw the rantings of a madman like you see on Trump's social media pages. Guys, there are grammatical errors everywhere. Random words, letters are capitalized. There's constant just name calling and attacks. There's perpetuating false stories. There's random generated AI images and videos. It is not something you expect from the leader of the free world. Let's just say that. Now, other honorable mentions go to just his lack of vocabulary in general and his fascination with everyday words and saying he created words that me and you use every day, like groceries. He's obsessed with that word. It's so weird the way he delivers it. Making up a word. I don't even know how this word is pronounced because it's not a real word. But kafefe or kafifi in a tweet. People, I think it was a typo, but he never addressed it. So I don't know if he made up a word. I have no idea, but he randomly tweeted kafifi in a tweet a few years ago. Other honorable mentions, and these did not make the cut. Saying he would date his own daughter. Yeah, that didn't make the top 10, but he definitely did that. There's a clip of that. You guys could Google it yourself. All of these guys did happen. These are researched. They're sourced. These are not made up. And the last one goes to this clip. The last honorable mention goes to this clip.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
Ah, yes, the kidney, right? Its place in the heart. The kidney in the heart. That's right. Makes sense. All right, guys, with that said, let's get to the top 10, starting with number 10. So for number 10, we have 107% of new jobs are taken by immigrants. So in this instance, Trump made not only this false, but mathematically impossible claim while at a town hall in Wisconsin in August of 2024.
107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens.
I remember vividly Trump going after districts. Specifically, I remember Baltimore City due to low scores, particularly in math. Yet he has this blunder and doesn't understand how cataclysmically dumb it is to say that immigrants are not only taking every new job that exists. So if you've had a new job recently, no, an immigrant took your job. So you're, I guess, just not a real person because immigrants took every new job. But they also somehow created an additional 7% of jobs that are somewhere in the ether, and they also filled those. So obviously, guys, this is not true. It's a lie and just mathematically dumb. Also, I want to just point this out. Are immigrants lazy and pillage resources from the government? Even though, guys, factually, the research shows that non-citizens pay more into taxes than any benefits they get out. So that's a lie. But are they lazy and just pillage resources from the government? Or are they incredibly hard workers and they're taking everyone's job, including jobs that don't even exist? Which one is it, Republicans? Which one is it, Trump? Let me know. It seems to just be whatever the flavor of the month is, because those are diametrically opposed. I don't know how they could both be true at the same time. But as you will see with most things in this list, they make no sense. So let's move forward to number 9. Checking in at number 9, we have Kamala Harris happened to turn black. So this controversial comment came from his appearance on his campaign trail in front of the National Association for Black Journalists in 2024.
So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear,
First of all, the way that he said black, like back to back, was laughable in itself. He does that with words. Like, have you heard this guy say like China? Like, I don't know, or Puerto Rico, or like I mentioned earlier, groceries. The way he said black there alone was ridiculous. But I guess for Donald Trump, we need to break down, and I'm a good expert for this, what it means to be multiracial, or in this case, biracial like myself for Trump. Maybe he failed math in our previous number 10 spot. And then in number 9, he may have just struggled with biology. So let's break this down. If you have a mommy and daddy potentially who love each other, right? But one happens to be one background, let's say black, and one happens to be white, like in my case, and then they have a child like me, you can be both black and like white at the same time. I know that's crazy for you because you and your dad did not rent to certain people due to their color of their skin, but I would have assumed that you had run into and had a discussion with a biracial person before. But I don't know, maybe Trump is right and I need to find like the hidden switch on my body where I can turn one on to be black and turn it off and then turn one on to be white at a given time. So I just happen to turn white when I need to and then happen to turn black when I need to. This dude is just off the rails. Number 8. With number 8, we have It's a Bible. So after using force, including tear gas, to disband protesters in Lafayette Square in his first time in office, Trump did the following stunt in front of St. John's Church.
It's a Bible.
So It's a Bible and then the nod hits so hard because I won't say everyone, because some of his more staunch cult-like followers think he is some kind of savior put on earth. But most of us in touch with reality know that Trump is the furthest thing from religious that we have maybe ever had in a president, at least in modern history, from what I've seen. He has no idea, guys, what is in that book that he is holding. He could not even state what his favorite scripture was or verse was when he was asked. And guys, I'm admittedly not religious. If you've been listening to this, you know this, or if you know me, you know this. But I do not know any part of the Bible that praises cheating on your wife, lying with impunity, and putting the rich and elites above the poor, needy, and immigrants. I don't know what verse scripture says that, but I don't know. I'm not the most religious. So if that does exist in the Bible where, you know, the rich get everything and you cut funding to those in need, please let me know. I may have been misinformed about what is in the Bible, but this did receive wide condemnation from when it happened. Remember, guys, these were protests after George Floyd was murdered. And he partially did this tear gas and aggressive, disbanding of the protesters because he was getting made fun of for hiding in a bunker while all of these protests were happening. Now, I do want to do a final caveat. Some of you may be upset about this, but it is not true from what I researched that he was holding it upside down. So that was reported. I did not see that to be true based on what I saw with the images, but still it's a Bible, not it's my Bible. It's good enough for the 8 spot. At number 7, we have Trump practicing his mid-range, his midi game with paper towels in Puerto Rico. So while visiting San Juan in Puerto Rico following the devastation of Hurricane Maria in 2017, Trump decided it was a good idea to have a photo op and practice his jump shot form by throwing paper towels into a crowd that was just ravaged by a hurricane. Now, guys, don't be mad at me for saying this, but that form isn't too bad. I'm not gonna lie. The form is not too bad. The elbow looks in, the flick of the wrist, but remember, we're being lighthearted in this. What makes this ridiculous is the utter lack of awareness in this situation, right? So, guys, at this time, about 90% of the phone and power in the entire U.S. territory of Puerto Rico was out at this time, and nearly 3,000 Puerto Ricans alone perished from Hurricane Maria. So when people need help, when there's this level of devastation, what I don't think they envision is an elderly man slowly flinging paper towel rolls at them one at a time. Once again, guys, it's kind of like that let them eat cake vibes. This should be saved. That form, Trump should be saved for the Pop-A-Shot at your local arcade, not for delivering aid to people who are devastated by a natural disaster. But remember, guys, Puerto Rico was just called in this last election cycle a floating island of garbage by a comedian at a Trump rally. So that just may give us some insight into how little he may actually care about the Puerto Rican people. But this entire stunt was really a photo op, obviously, just like the previous one. And the mayor of San Juan at the time called the visit insulting and also labeled Trump as miscommunicator in chief. Now, I think pathological liar is just more direct and on brand and to the point, but I get what you were doing there. Sitting right here at number 6, we have they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. This moment, guys, I was wrong. I admit when I'm wrong. You guys know that if you've been watching. I thought this was his time where he was done. This moment was from his debate with Kamala Harris in 2024, and it was just absolute unhinged insanity.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. Guys, we had a presidential candidate on a national debate stage, pushing an obviously false narrative about Haitian immigrants eating household pets. It does not get much more embarrassing than that on a national level. And shout out to the Democratic Party for allowing someone to say that on a national debate stage, yet still not connect enough with the American people to win. That is, Democrats, you failed miserably. Obviously, this was a false narrative. It is meant to spread fear and hatred towards Haitian immigrants and look at them as subhuman, right? Because they're eating household animals. Who would do that, right? Not anyone who's civilized or human. Positively, though, we're gonna keep it light here. Many people, guys, in the city of Springfield actually rallied around the Haitian migrants to combat this narrative. And guys, a great viral song, kind of a remix. I don't know who originated it, but they're eating the dogs, eating the cats. That was fantastic. So shout out whoever remixed that together as well. But I am just left with this dude said that on the debate stage and he was still elected president. Checking in at number 5, we have Sharpiegate, or what is referred to also as the Hurricane Dorian Alabama controversy. So due to an inaccurate tweet stating that Alabama was also going to be hit by Hurricane Dorian in 2019, Trump responded by not admitting he was wrong, but instead he took a Sharpie to a weather map that showed Hurricane Dorian's path to extend it into parts of Alabama. So what you guys can see here is a weather map that has been altered with a black Sharpie to try to show that Trump was right and that a small part of Alabama would be impacted by the hurricane. A wild part about this story, well, one of the wild things is that the local weather bureau, you know, the actual experts, they consistently reported that to Alabamians, I think that's how that's pronounced. My bad if you are from Alabama and I said that incorrectly, but the local weather bureau constantly said that you guys would be safe from the hurricane and it would not hit their state. So Trump, being the liar that he is and having just such a fragile ego and not being able to just say, oh, my bad, it was wrong, or you could even just say there was new information and now it's not hitting Alabama. You could put a little something on it, but he handled the situation a way I feel like an elementary age kid would in a pinch, right? They're about to present a project. They want to change something. They're worried that they're going to make themselves look embarrassed. So they do the most, immature, childish thing, and they don't think through the way to fix it. And you just take a marker and draw on the map. As if it would somehow prove him right, as if it would somehow change the path of a hurricane. I don't know, but ultimately, guys, the moral of this story is there's nothing like a Sharpie to a printed map to tell a hurricane who's boss. Moving into the top half of the list at number 4, we have Trump saying that climate change leads to more seafront and oceanfront property. So during a campaign stop in Flint, Trump was discussing, obviously with also egregious factual errors, nuclear weaponry across the world when he stumbled into this gem regarding climate change and global warming.
And when I hear these people talking about global warming, that's the global warming you have to worry about. Not that the ocean's going to rise in 400 years, 1/8 of an inch, and you'll have more seafront property, right, if that happens. I said, is that good or bad? I said, isn't that a good thing? If I have a little property on the ocean, I have a little bit more property. I have a little bit more ocean.
Guys, on second watch of this, the most concerning thing here is not that Trump doesn't understand, obviously, how water works or land, but the crowd applauded. Guys, the crowd applauded. So as the young people say, this country may, in fact, be cooked. But I think the Washington Post headline really summarizes my reaction to this statement. I think they hit this title well, saying, does Donald Trump understand how the ocean works? Now, my answer to this question based on the nonsense that just came out of his mouth is obviously no. I would guess, as many things he speaks to, he doesn't understand. He just regurgitates things that he hears, and he doesn't activate his mind to think if the thing he heard makes logical sense. It's kind of worse than that, guys, because he's just intellectually lazy. He does not make the effort to understand things, right? He won't even read his briefings. That is a well-reported thing. He doesn't like reading, so he doesn't read his press briefings. They have even needed to put in pictures to like he's a toddler to get him interested in it. And they've also considered turning the briefings into Fox News style clips, so he'll actually do it. Or actually like know what's going on. So we have a president of the United States who doesn't read, basically. I hope I do not need to break this down for you guys as to why this is so insane. But if I do first of all, don't tell anybody. This can stay between me and you because it's embarrassing. And I don't want you to be embarrassed. But guys, obviously, if you have just a plot of land, if you need to get a piece of paper, just draw like a square, right? Assume all of that is surrounded by water. If that water level rises and moves inward, and you can just start shading it on the circle. Guys, there's less land, so there is less waterfront property. There is less land touching the water if water moves in on land masses. That is like very obvious. Additionally, guys, if water rises, you're also just wiping out the property that sits on the shoreline, which is just not part of his consideration. I know Ben Shapiro made this argument that, if climate change hits or if your house is going to go underwater, you just sell it, right? But the retort to that is who is going to buy a house, or what is the value going to be for a house that you know and that the buyer knows is going to be underwater in, let's say, 8 years or down the road 2 years. Like that. Devoid, guys, of logic, base and understanding. And I mean, this dude doesn't understand the basics of just so many things. We are now in the top 3. And guys, these top 3, I was pretty comfortable. Like, I'm pretty confident in these top 3 and where I stand. By the way, before we get to these top 3, feel free in the comments. Let me know what you think about my list. Do you feel like I'm on point so far? Do you feel like you have different things that maybe I've forgotten? But just let me know what you think. But moving on to number 3, we have sex change operations happening in school. So this was yet another viral moment. Trump made a false claim that children are getting underage transgender surgeries at school.
But the transgender thing is incredible. Think of it. Your kid goes to school and comes home a few days later with an operation. The school decides what's going to happen with your child. And many of these childs 15 years later say, what the hell happened? Who did this to me?
So this led to dozens, if not hundreds, of viral social media clips between parents and their kids making fun of this absurd assertion. But guys, I hope I do not need to tell you that schools are obviously not performing gender affirming surgeries or transgender surgeries or anything like that in schools. Guys, schools are historic. You guys know they're underfunded. You know teachers are underpaid. You know we don't have resources that are needed to educate kids. Like, that is well known across the country. So Trump thinks that schools are hoarding the resources that are required and putting them aside, I guess, in some secret room so that kids can come in one at a time. And teacher, principal, assistant principal, nurse, is then performing these sex change operations. Guys, this dude, he is like false internet, like nonsense come to life, right? Like, it's every false thing you will see on the internet just comes out of this dude's mouth. And what makes this, very frustrating for me is it's spreading hatred due to things you don't know or don't understand, but then you don't take the effort to know or understand, right? And also, I want to leave this story at this before we jump into the top 2. And because I want to stick to the facts, only an estimated 1%, so 1 out of 100 trans people who have had gender affirming care actually regret it. So it's not most, it is not a lot. It is 1 out of 100. That is 1%. That is very, very low. Moving to number 2. This is Trump suggesting we can nuke hurricanes to stop them from hitting the United States. So according to reports, Trump threw around the idea of nuking hurricanes in order to prevent them from reaching the United States. This one, guys, had to land in the top 3 for sure, but I decided here at number 2. Guys, I hope, once again, I feel like I'm saying I hope a lot, but you should understand this is a horrific idea for endless reasons, starting with the environmental impact of what would happen if you nuke the ocean. Not to mention the financial toll. It takes billions of dollars to create nuclear weaponry. We have increased hurricanes because of climate change. So are we just producing billions of dollars of nuclear weaponry every time there's a hurricane? And guys, it doesn't even work. All that, it wouldn't change necessarily the path of the hurricane. All that would happen is all of the radioactive material from the nuclear device would spread everywhere in the ocean, in the city and towns where the hurricane hit. So imagine like Hurricane Katrina, but then throwing in radioactive material all over Louisiana. Like, it is really eye-opening, guys, to have a president. And our president, guys, should be the best, the smartest, right? They should have the brilliant mind to really solve the problems of the United States. But we have a president who is incredibly clueless, incredibly uneducated about so many basic things. Funny and final thought to this story is National Geographic posted the following story just a few weeks after Trump won the 2016 election. And guys, just to summarize, nuking a hurricane, incredibly stupid idea. We have arrived, guys, at number 1, and you guys have probably been waiting for this one. I find it to be the most absurd thing he has said or done, which is injecting disinfectant into the body to fight COVID-19. So in the midst of a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic, the leader of the free world, the leader of the United States of America, and the most powerful person in the world at the time suggested injecting disinfectant directly into people to address COVID.
So supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
Yes, medical doctors, sir, not yourself, not yourself. This, guys, had to take the number 1 spot, not only to the sheer, we're living in idiocracy, guys, of the moment, but this photo reaction, Deborah Birx at this time, who he's kind of talking to off there, who he was talking to off on the side there, reaction to delivering these asinine comments. I think it was the moment she realized, like, oh, my career in its current state is done. Another thing that was really wild about this story, guys, is it's well reported. I've already said it. He doesn't read, right? He doesn't inform himself anywhere near the level you should if you're an average just human being, much less if you're the president of the United States. But you could see his like wheels turning in real time. He's like, wait, I think I'm on to something. And yes, disinfectant, inject, in body, hit the lungs, we're good to go. Just, he doesn't understand like anything. I am perplexed how some of his base, you can like him for different reasons, whatever. I obviously don't. I would like to discuss if you do why, but to call him brilliant or smart or anything in that category is absurd. It's ridiculous. There's too many pieces of evidence to contradict that statement. Now, after this briefing, if you guys remember, Trump said in response when he was questioned about his nonsense commentary that he was sarcastic, as if we didn't see what we just saw with our own eyes. Guys, I love sarcasm. You know what sarcasm looks like, right? He is gaslighting to the extreme. He was not being sarcastic. This guy thought you could inject disinfectant into your, like, I guess, bloodstream or directly into your lungs. It would then hit the COVID and kill it, I think is his logic. And if you were wondering, guys, yes, the rate of accidental poisonings did rise after Trump's comment. So, right, no, it's not a cult, right? If leader tells you to inject poisoning into you, I wouldn't do that, right? Well, the data unfortunately showed that some of his supporters went and injected disinfectant in them or consumed disinfectant due to this clip. So that wraps up, guys, the top 10. Once again, let me know what you think. Not only how your list may compare to mine and whether you agree or disagree, but let me know if you like the vibes of this show, because I want to make sure I am covering important things, guys, because we're at serious moment in time. People are suffering, but at the same time, we need to have a little mental health break and have a balance. So let me know if you want to see more things like this, or if maybe you just want me to keep my balance off camera and only focus on the serious things on camera. But last but not least, we're going to do our shout out of the week, which is going to Teal Health. So the FDA approves an at-home cervical cancer device. So this at-home tool will serve as a pap smear alternative for women out there. And if you are a male out there, because I know women obviously know this, they live it. But if you're a male out there who is unaware, a pap smear can be incredibly uncomfortable and painful for women, but it is a way to screen, for instance, for like cervical cancer. But how it works is basically a cold metal device is inserted deep inside a woman to scrape cells from the cervix. So you could just imagine how uncomfortable that is. Now, this new device by Teal Health will offer a what they called much preferred experience in an announcement that the company made, and it also aims to increase screening rates by making the procedure more convenient. So guys, we see things like this with colonoscopies now, where there's at-home tests, which I think are a net positive as long as their readings are accurate enough, because at the end of the day, we want people catching their health issues. The longer they persist and the longer they take to get caught, the more hard they are to treat. And if some people are hesitant to come into an office for whatever reason, like it could be painful, then I think anything as an alternative, as long, as it has science efficacy, I think is a great thing. Now, this specific device is called the Teal Wand, and they are branding as built with empathy. I would say, guys, built also with profit in mind. Let's not kid ourselves here. Good inventions still generally have a profit motive. Now, how this would work is it uses a swab to collect a vaginal sample. Women then mail the sample to a lab that will screen for HPV. And this is the virus that causes or that leads to nearly all cervical cancer. So a growing body of research has found that this HPV testing is highly accurate. So I am excited for this for women out there. I think we need a good piece of news because today, or as of recording, Trump just restricting more access to women's health decisions, but this seems to be a move in a positive direction. Now, one final kind of thing I'm going to start ending the show with, it's a very small thing, but I'm just going to drop a random song at the end, just so you guys know today's vibe. So if you want to kind of throw on a song and listen to something maybe I'm listening to today, I'm going to be throwing on Show and Tell by Al Wilson. Thank you for watching and being part of a growing progressive community. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the time, check out some of my other episodes you can see around me. Thank you.